Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the third episode of the Whispers of the Old Gods card talk. I've got another 17 cards for you guys this week, and today I'm joined by... And Falco Fart's not here today, but hopefully he'll be back next week for the next set of cards. So we're inching closer and closer to the 134 card total at 43 now. So let's start with card number 27. So this is the next old god that's been released, coming after Cthulhu and N'Zoth. It's Yasharj, and please correct me if I'm incorrect.
It's Yasharj.
Yasharj, Rage Unbound. So it's a 10 mana 10/10 at the end of your turn. Put a minion from your deck into the battlefield. So Dynamite7, why don't you start with your opinion on this card?
I think it's a 7 out of 10. Because I'm looking forward to Yogg-Saron, the last old god that they're adding in.
Well, do you think this card is...
I think he's going to be the best. I think they're saving the best for last.
So do you...
Because I think each old god's been getting slightly better with their abilities.
I personally thought N'Zoth was fairly weak, to be honest. I thought Cthulhu was stronger than N'Zoth. Because even though there are a lot of powerful Death Rattle minions, you can't have that many of them in your deck, and if you do, or if something happens and you have too many that have died, and then...
But everyone's going to get a Cthulhu.
That's true. I just think Cthulhu's stronger than N'Zoth. But we've got Yasharj here. I think that Yasharj, stats-wise, 10 mana, 10/10. I guess for 10 mana, it is well, stats-wise. It's pretty good, 10 mana, 10/10.
I think it's good if you fill it, or if you get this guy and fill your whole deck with minions that do something at the end of your turn.
Because, for example, you shouldn't put... if you have this guy in your deck, you shouldn't put a lot of Battlecry minions, because it's wasted, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know, I think if you build your deck around him, he can be a good card, but overall, I would say he is just slightly above average, even though those are premium 10 mana stats. The only 10 mana card with higher stats, naturally, than him is, of course, Nightwing. Deathwing. I said Nightwing. That's the DC superhero.
That's okay. His original name was Nightwing, wasn't it? Or was that Nefarian's original name? I don't know. It's one of them.
Also, update from last week about N'Zoth. He will not trigger, or sorry, Explorer's Hat and...
No, he won't trigger those ones.
And Soul of the Forest will not trigger it. Yeah, so let's move on to card number 28. Spawn of N'Zoth. So we're back to another N'Zoth card. So this is a common 3 mana 2/2 Death Rattle. Give all of your give your minions +1/+1. That's all of your minions. What do you think of this card, Dynamite7?
It's okay.
I think that for 3 mana 2/2 is very weak stats wise. Am I correct here?
Yeah, but I think if you have at least 2 other minions in your deck, then you're getting value out of this card.
Oh, you mean on the field? Not in your deck.
No. Oh, it's in your... Is it just on the field? Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, you're right. It's just... Yeah, if you have 2 other minions on the battlefield, then it's worth it. I
agree. I think this card is average at best. If in its best scenario, obviously it's going to be very good, but it's in its worst scenario, you can't play this on curve, right?
No.
Well, let me rephrase that. It's not a good curve card. I guess technically you can play any card you want on curve most of the time. Okay, so I think it's average. I think that you can use this in your Death Rattle decks, but nonetheless, I don't think it's that great of a card. Moving on to card number 29, Skaram Cultist. So this is a 6 mana 7/6 Battlecry. Give your Cthulhu +2/+2 wherever it is, and of course we're all familiar with the Give your Cthulhu +2/+2 wherever it is. As you see on the side, we already have the Cthulhu's Chosen and Beacon of Evil to do the same thing. What do you think of Skaram Cultist?
I think it's a good card. It's good for it's good for a 6-drop, right?
Right.
Because it has an extra attack, and it gives your Cthulhu 2/2, which is, if you think about it, if it was just giving this guy 2/2, that's pretty good. 6 mana, 9/8.
Which is
right?
Technically... It's giving it 9 damage of value, because when your Cthulhu comes out, it'll do an extra 2 thanks to Skaram Cultist.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure you can...
I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm not sure you can give it the health, though, as part of its thing. I'm not sure if you can do that, but... My question is, if I do this and then I pull, it's a question about Cthulhu. If I do any of these three cards, Cthulhu's Chosen, Beacon of Evil, Skaram, Cultist, and then I pull Cthulhu from something like Sneeds, will it affect that? Or not Sneeds? I shouldn't
Yeah,
say
it
Sneeds.
will.
That's a bad example. Something like Mulch, and it goes in my hand. Will it have all the +2/+2 abilities that have happened, or does it have to be?
It will.
It will.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think Skaram Cultist is a good card, even though it is in Big Game Hunter range and Fireball, Fireball range. So, I think this card is slightly worse than a card, stats-wise, a card such as Boulder Fist Ogre, because I would rather have the 6/7, that way it's out of both of those things' range. But I still think it's premium stats for 6-drop, and the Cthulhu effect, of course, is what it is. Would you say this is the best, the worst, or in the middle of the three +2/+2 Cthulhu cards?
I think that I think the Divine Shield one is probably the best, but I think this one's probably in the middle.
Yeah, because Beacon of Evil is just a regular 2/3 minion. Anyways, good to see more Cthulhu cards. Hopefully they do something. Hopefully they keep adding more Cthulhu cards.
Hopefully they don't.
And card number 30, Cult Apothecary. It's a 5-mana 4/4 battle cry for each enemy minion. Restore 2 health to your hero. Is this a good card, Dynamite?
I think it's pretty good if it's in a priest. I think it works well with a priest deck.
Does it matter what kind of deck it's
not
in?
much for others. Doesn't matter what?
Does it matter? Because it's just for each enemy minion. It doesn't really matter for your opinions.
Well, think about it. If they have a full board with 7 minions, right? That's 14 health you're getting back.
That's true.
So think of it like a 5-mana 4/4 restore 14 health. That's like a really good anti-heal bot, right?
That would, yes, be a very good anti-heal bot. But that's only if they have a full board, so...
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't think this card's
well, I think there was like an average of like 3 minions on the board at a time. So that's 6 health, right? It's 5-mana 4/4 restore 6 health, basically.
I don't know, I don't think it's great. I think there has to be the right situation for it, but I think there are a lot of wrong situations for it, and I think there are going to be more
I think
wrong.
maybe if they made it a demon or something, I don't know. Maybe that could boost it up.
Maybe something like that. It needs something else. I think it's weak just as a card. I think it's weak. Moving on to card number 31, Ancient Harbinger. Ancient Harbinger. Can't say that word. That's okay. So it's a 6-mana 4/6. At the start of your turn, put a 10-cost mana minion from your deck into your hand. So obviously this is a Cthulhu puller, N'Zoth puller.
I think it's meant for late game. Like, I don't think you'd be playing this on turn 6. I don't think it's a turn 6 card. I think it's more at the, like, when you're, like, at the very end of the game when both players are running low on cards.
I would go the complete opposite. I think this is exactly a turn 6 play, because you want to get that Cthulhu into your hand, don't you?
That early? On turn 6.
I don't know. I think having the Cthulhu in your hand is a huge advantage, because if you wait, then again, because if you wait too long, what are the odds they can't do 6 damage late game? Whether it be from their hand or what's already on the board, because this thing has to survive a turn. We have to put that into consideration too. It can't. It's not just when you play it. It's at the start of your turn. So that means that you'd have to, if you played it on turn 10 or whenever, it would have to survive a turn. And I would say the odds are later that they'll be able to clear than earlier. Am I wrong here?
I think it's a... Well, I don't like thinking of this card as a good one, in my opinion.
I think it's just to pull the Cthulhu, N'Zoth, whatever. I think it's to pull the guy you've been setting up the whole game. Because just by pulling it doesn't put it into the battlefield. It just puts it in your hand, so you can play Cthulhu whenever you want to. Or I'm just using Cthulhu as an example. You can play whatever 10-mana minion you want to whenever you want. It just puts it in your hand. Deathwing, Sea Giant, it could technically pull. Like I'm just saying that I think it's better if you play it earlier than later. That's my opinion. And on the goodness of the card, I think that if you're playing a Cthulhu, N'Zoth, a Yashera, or whatever, and the one you said, I'm sorry, what was the last old god's name?
Yogg-Saron.
Yogg-Saron. If that's a 10-mana card, which I assume it's going to be.
At the end of that.
Yogg-Saron?
Yogg-Saron.
Oh, Yogg-Saron. Sorry.
It's spelled like Saren, but it's pronounced Saron for whatever reason.
Oh, Yogg-Saron. Okay, Yogg-Saron. I think of Yogg-Saron, I'm assuming is 10 mana. If you have a deck built around all 4 of those old gods, or any other really 10-cost mana minion, I think that this is a good card to use if you just... but I wouldn't put it in any other deck. Moving on to card number 32, Scaled Nightmare. So it's a 6-mana 2/8. And at the start of your turn, double this minion's attack. And this is another one of those cards joining in with the highest stat value, highest health stat. No?
Yeah.
Yes? No?
What do you mean by that? I don't know.
I don't know what I'm trying to say. Sorry, it's the best stats you can steal with Cabal Shadow Priest.
Mm-hmm.
So at the start of your turn, double this minion's attack, and it is a dragon. So Dynamite 7, what do you think of Scaled Nightmare?
Well, I'm a bit biased on this one. You know why, right?
Because you play Dragon Priest?
Yeah. It's the only thing I play now.
Would this go into your Dragon Priest deck?
Mm-hmm.
I think that
just because I need more dragons.
I'm sorry, what?
I think it's an okay card, but I just need more dragons in my deck, so I'm a bit biased on this one.
I think that if you play it on turn 6, which I assume you're supposed to do, which is I think you played on turn 6. If you play it on turn 6, I think it's not totally weak, because having 8 health is very useful on turn 6, because hard removal is going to be it's probably not going to be a big target for hard removal just on turn 6.
No. I don't think so.
And I don't think you'd want to throw... But I think you'd want to throw things into Scaled Nightmare instead of using hard removal.
Well, the earlier you kill it, the less damage you'll take in the future, basically.
Because on turn 7 it'll have 4, on turn 8 it'll have 8, and on turn 9 it'll have 16. So if you let it...
So, like, this one's good to leave for maybe 1 or 2 turns if you really have to, but probably no more than that. Yeah,
or else it starts to get out of hand. It's like, it's kind of like a weaker version of Gazrilla, like a scaled down version, I should say, not weaker. Scaled down Gazrilla, right?
Sure.
Kind of, in the sense of
kind of
doubling the attack, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not in the sense of what it does exactly, but I don't know. I think this card is going to be tried out. I think it'll see play in Dragon Synergy decks, but I don't think that this is going to be one of those must-add cards. I think it'll see use in the niches that it fills. So card number... Actually, Dynamite 7, do you think this is you said this is an okay card, right?
Yeah, it's okay.
Moving on to card number 33, Mukla, Tyrant of the Veil. So this is a new card based off of King Mukla, and of course it's following the same kind of pattern where you see an old character corrupted, quote-unquote, to become something new. So this is a 6-mana 5/5. Battlecry, add 2 bananas to your hand. So unlike King Mukla, which gives your opponent 2 bananas for 3 cost, this gives you 2 bananas for 6 cost. What do you think of Mukla, Tyrant of the Veil?
I think it's okay, because once you use the 2 bananas, like say if you use it on it's like a 8-mana 7/7, right? Beast. So it's a bit under average, I'd say.
I don't think Mukla is going to see tons of play. Even though, like Falcofart like to say many, many, many times, the meta is slowing down, I don't think it is this slow. That you can play a 5/5 on turn 6 for your whole turn, and have your opponent not put out something big or remove your 6/6.
I think that
or 5/5. Sorry.
It's more for like aiding people who want to play decks with like Fiola and Idis, Dark and Lightbane.
I think that this could help.
Because you can use the bananas on them, right?
Yeah, and that would trigger, or anything, or Maybe Combo Rogue could use bananas to help trigger their combos, but as a low alternative. But even still, I don't think this card is very strong. I think Mukla is a very, very, very aggressive card. While that can be used in aggressive decks, where you're trying to get damage off quickly, because on turn 3, or turn 3, it's hard to get 5 damage off, right? If you don't already have an established board.
Yeah.
But on turn 6, I would say that's very, very different. Even though you get the 2 bananas, which is an extra 2/2 of value, I don't think that this card is very good.
I think maybe it will get playing like Tempo Mage, but not much else.
I don't think it's a very good tempo card. That's the problem.
Because my brother, he plays Tempo Mage a lot, right? And I showed him the card and he said he'd use it in his deck if he drew it.
I don't know. I don't think it's super strong. I think you're gonna have a hard time fitting this into a lot of pre-established decks as alternatives to other 6 drops.
Well, because Tempo Mage right now uses King Mukla if you have it. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's because King Mukla is a very aggressive turn 3 play that can go very well for you. I think playing this on turn 6, it's easier to get 5 damage off. 5 damage can come from 5 drop creatures. In fact, are there 4 drops that have 5? Yeah, Evil Heckler has 5, and he's a 4 drop. So you play this on turn 6, he played that on turn 4. You've just traded your 5/5 turn 6 play for his turn 4 play. And other minions, other 5 drop minions that have 5 damage, such as Booty Bay, or other similar cards.
But who plays Booty Bay?
I'm just giving examples of 5 attack minions that are lower cost than 6. But the difference is, even on turn 3, it's okay to give your opponent 2 bananas or 2/2 of stats, because what are the odds they're gonna be able to get that minion out right away, or attack or use it on a 3 attack 2 drop. It's possible, but the rewards for playing this on turn 3 are much higher than playing Mukla Tyrant of the Veil on turn 6 and hoping that it doesn't die and you haven't just gotten the 2 bananas for 6 mana. But I think this is a below average card. Dynamite 7, you think it's a?
I think it's just below average, barely under average.
Moving on to card number 33, or 34, excuse me, the Boogie Monster. So this is a card that Falco Fart and I actually alluded to last week when we saw that it had been announced but no stats had come with it. It's an 8 mana 6/7. When this attacks and kills a minion, gain +2/+2. Dynamite 7, what are your opinions on this card?
I think, well, the people, so, it's kind of hard to explain, like, it has to basically stay alive for 1 turn, right?
And
because
this is
it has to attack and kill it, right?
So this is a huge, but if you see this card against you, this is a huge hard removal target, right?
Well, if you think about other 8 drops, like, give me some names of some other 8 drops.
Alexstrasza is an 8 drop.
Yeah, that's an 8/8, right?
Yeah.
When you have to play this, keep it alive for a turn, and then attack with it, then it becomes an 8/9. Minus whatever it got hit for.
Yeah, minus the health of whatever it hit for. Like, there are not a tons of 0 attack minions that you would that in this game, right?
No, there's only like 3 or something like that.
What is your menu? Target Dummy, Shield Bearer.
Alarmobot.
Oh, Lightwell.
Doomsayer.
Yeah, there's not tons of things you can do to keep this as a 8/7, and remember, once you hit into it, it'll be in BGH target too as well. So once it does its attack, so really your opponent doesn't even have to hard removal it on turn 8. They can wait till turn 9 until you hit it into something, because you're not going to hit face with this the first turn, right?
No. Well, maybe if there's no minions.
Well, okay, if there are no minions, of course you have to hit face. But if there's minions on the board, you're gonna hit the minions. So all he has to do is wait till turn 9, then he can BGH it without having to waste a hard removal spell on it. So I think this card is below average.
Yes.
Not impressed by this card as of so far. until maybe I get in the game and look at how slow the meta has become, that maybe this can become playable. I don't think this card is very good.
I don't think it's gonna do any well.
Moving on to card number 35, Mark of Yasarj. So it's a 2 mana a spell, and it's a druid spell, and it is give a minion +2/+2. If it's a beast, draw a card. And then I've got to compare it here to Mark of the Wild, which is give a minion taunt and +2/+2 for the same mana cost. Dynamite 7, what do you think of Mark of Yasarj?
Well, I think it's very similar to Mark of the Wild. It's just that instead of giving a minion taunt, if you choose health, then you get a beast instead. Or you draw a card if it's a beast instead.
I don't think it's very good for the simple reason of you have to have the beast for the extra effect. When you play Mark of the Wild, you can play on anything you want, and that minion will get taunt. And that taunt could potentially be useful or not useful, because in some situations you're trying to keep a minion that you want alive. And you don't want that to have taunt, necessarily, if there's already taunts on the board that are protecting it. But when it comes to Mark of Yasarj, you don't get that taunt. And while that could be good and bad, if you don't have a beast, and to be fair, there are a couple, and by a couple I mean a lot of druid beasts. But if it's not a beast, you don't draw the card, and you could have gotten Mark of the Wild, which would have given the minion taunt, and I would say, what, taunt's worth half a
Well,
point?
maybe you don't want to give it taunt though, right?
No, but I'm saying,
maybe.
well, taunt's usually worth half a point, right?
Roughly, yeah.
So you've now lost, if you don't draw the card, you've now lost half a point of value. So it's now no longer, and now it's just 2 for 2/2 when you have Mark of the Wild, which could have given a minion taunt. And most of the time, to be honest, it doesn't matter if you've given a minion taunt, right?
Yeah.
Because if they're gonna hard removal it, they're gonna hard removal it anyways. And if it has, if there are other minions with taunt already, it doesn't really. If there were no other minions with taunt, really, it doesn't matter anyways. So I think giving it taunt's really not that big of an issue. I think normally it's a better thing than a worse thing. Am I right?
Yeah.
And if you play Mark of Yasarj and it's not a beast, you could have had more value by half a point if you played Mark of the Wild, which is, may I add, a basic card. So you get Mark of the Wild. So you're always going to have an option between Mark of the Wild and Mark of Yasarj if you get Mark of Yasarj. So I think that because card draw is worth a point, right?
Yeah, 1.
If you're playing it on a beast, you're getting more value than Mark of the Wild. But if it's not a beast, and it's honestly probably at least, if not 60-40, not a beast. 50-50 on beasts and not beasts in a druid deck. So if you have minions that aren't beasts, you lose the value. If you have a beast, you gain the value. So I think it depends on what your deck looks like. But if there's not as many beasts in your deck as there are, if there are not more beasts in your deck than there are other minions, I think you should stick with Mark of the Wild. If you're playing either of these cards. Do you agree, Dynamite 7?
I agree.
Moving on to card number 36, it's another druid card. It's Infest. Give your minions Death Rattle, add a random beast to your hand. What do you think of Infest, Dynamite 7?
It's okay if you have a big board. I think if you have at least 3 minions, it's worth it.
Druids also have the card that is give your minions Death Rattle, summon a 2/2, right?
Which one is that?
Summon a 2/2 tree or whatever.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Do you think that card is stronger or not as strong as this card?
It's probably gonna be just as strong.
I slightly disagree. I also agree and disagree. I think that it's more valuable to have the 2/2s on the board than it is beasts in your hand. But I think that because of the RNG. But I think if RNG is on your side the most of the time, which it isn't for anybody, but if it is, I would go with Infest. Because Death Rattle, add a random beast to your hand. It's just like Web Spinner.
Yeah.
In the sense of its Death Rattle. Web Spinner, how often would you say Web Spinner gives you a usable beast card?
Like 2 out of 3 times.
So RNG is pretty good for you, and I think that if you use this card, RNG.
But that's just for Web Spinner, right? It's hard to not get a good beast because there's so many good ones out there.
Yeah, so I think that if you play Infest, Infest is a strong card. Infest is like it's like I would say it's pretty good. If you have if you have two minions or more, I would play Infest, right?
Yeah. No,
I
I'd say 3. But
I think it's a good card. I think it'll see tons of play? No, but I think it's above average to good. I like it. Would I use it? I'm not sure. I don't play Druid. I used to, but I don't anymore. Because I don't have the cards
it's
needed.
not a Druid card.
Is that what card is this?
It's Hunter.
I keep saying Druid. I mean Hunter. That's the second time I said Druid. Third time Druid? I don't know. It's a Hunter card. My bad. Moving on to card number 37. Are you texting right now, by the way?
Me? No.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Anyways, it's card number 37, Kabbalist's Tome, and it's a mage spell, and it's a 5 mana, add 3 random mage spells to your hand. And I've compared it to Ethereal Conjurer, of course, because it's the 5 mana value, the same. You discover a spell, so you get to pick one of 3, and you get the 6/3 on the board. Which do you think, first off, let's start off with, which do you think is a better card, Ethereal Conjurer or Kabbalist's Tome?
Well, now that I see this card, when I first saw it, I thought it was a 3 mana spell.
It is 5 mana.
Yeah. Now that I see it's 5 mana, when I saw it was 3 mana, I'm like 3 mana for 3 cards. That's really good, right?
Fortunately, it's 5 mana for 3 cards.
So I think it's the card by itself. I think is okay. I think it's also supposed to help out with like those decks that are meant to draw cards, like ones with Gadget Sand, Auctioneer, Fiola Lightbane. I forget the name of the other one. The Darkbane, something Darkbane.
Adis
Darkbane. I think this is meant to like help out because this is a spell too, right?
Yes.
So it's like 4 spells, right?
And of course, it also is an activator for both Wild Pyromancer and Flamewaker and other cards like that. It is a spell. So
yeah.
In mage decks that run that kind of thing, it's useful for that as well. But do you think it's a good card?
I think it's average.
I think if it wasn't a mage card, if it was any other class, it would be very weak. But because mage has so many good, powerful
maybe
spells,
it would have been. Maybe it'd be played in Hunter because of lock and load, right?
But even still, there are so many good mage cards that it actually makes this card kind of okay. Because
there's also some bad ones, right?
Yeah, name a bad mage spell. See, exactly. There aren't that many bad mage spells. There are a lot of good mage spells. Because if I asked you, can you name a good mage spell?
Fire Blast. Or no.
Fireball.
Fire Blast is the hero power.
Yes. But there's tons. Fire Blast I'd be happy with. If I got, what's it called? The Polymorph, I'd be happy with that. Cards like, if I got a Pyroblast from this, I'd be okay with that, because I can't have Pyroblast in my deck, because it's not a good card for, like, even if it's not a good card to just throw in your deck, because you're not going to be able to use it at all times. But if I got that from Kabbalist's Tome, which I would put in my deck, I would be happy with that, because that could be a finisher for me. That could be a lethal next turn, per se. That could be set up for a setup for a lethal. Things like that. But even if I got one of the worst cards I can imagine, if I got Mirror Image, which is still not that bad card in its own respect, it's actually pretty good. Well, ish. Even if I got that card, it's not that bad, to be honest. If I got Mirror Image, if I got, what's another 1 mana spell? Arcane Missiles, I would be happy if I got 3 Arcane Missiles. Because it's still not that bad. It's still 9 damage worth of value, am I right? Matt?
Yeah.
You just got super quiet all of a sudden. So what do you think is better, Ethereal Conjurer or Kabbalist's Tome?
Ethereal Conjurer, because you get to choose the spell, I think. I think that just pushes it for me.
And you also get the body on the board.
Yeah, but I think if it was just add a random spell, it'd probably be about the same. But since you get to discover the spell, you get to choose out of the 3 which one is best for your problem then and there.
So if you had to choose between Kabbalist's Tome and Ethereal Conjurer in your deck, you would choose Ethereal Conjurer?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the good news is he was from League of Explorers, so we've still got at least 2 more years with Ethereal Conjurer, and at least 3 more years of Kabbalist Tome to figure out which one is better. Moving on to number
Well,
38.
I'm gonna go, but Talpers can finish off the episode.
Alright, I guess I'll be here alone for the rest of the episode. Thanks for staying along so far, guys. Make sure you say goodbye to Dynamite7,
Bye.
and I'll continue myself. So
Okay.
card number 38,
Bye, Talpers.
bye, is Steward of Darkshire. And this card is a 3-mana 3/3, which stats-wise isn't so bad. There are worse. It's not great. There are better, of course. But for 3 mana, it's not horrible. And whenever you summon a 1 health minion, give it Divine Shield. Now, I've compared it to Hobgoblin solely for the fact that it plays off the same effect. It's the whenever you play, or it says play in Hobgoblin, summon, and Steward of Darkshire. Um, Whenever you play a 1 attack minion, give it +2/+2, and that's a similar concept as to whenever you summon a 1 health minion. It's kind of the opposite of Hobgoblin. Give it Divine Shield. Now remember, Hobgoblin is leaving because he's a Goblins and Gnomes card, but Steward of Darkshire will be here to stay, and I think giving a 1 health minion Divine Shield is actually quite useful. Now, unfortunately, there aren't that many 1 health minions late game. You've got early game, you've got a few 1 health minions. Of course, you've got your 2 mana, oh, what is it? The draw card one. The little engineer girl. Novice engineer. You've got that. But then again, when you also get a 3 mana slot, you've also got cards that already have Divine Shield in a Scarlet Crusader. So while I don't think it's that great of a card, I think it can be used. And of course, it works with the Paladin hero power, I assume. So that's going to be super powerful. You're going to get a 2/2 value out of all your hero powers after turn 3 if you can use your Steward of Darkshire. It hasn't died yet. But again, with 3 health, it's also easy to remove with mage spells such as Frost Bolt. Excuse me. And it's not horrifyingly bad stats-wise, but again, it's not great. And I don't think the card's that great, but again, if you're playing it, if you can get it as Paladin, you basically won, in my opinion. Well, an early game at least, and you can keep it alive. But moving on to if you can get it as Paladin, like if you can get it out. But I had a seizure then. I do like Hobgoblin, and I think Hobgoblin was a reasonably okay card if you could get it to work synergizely. Synergizely, is that a word? I don't know. But I think that it'll be interesting to see if this can fit into any decks, because of course as a 1 health minion it's not super great, but it works as a Paladin card. You get your 1/1s to have Divine Shield, so if it can stay alive, it's a good card. Moving on to card number 39, Ragnaros Lightlord. Now, I hoped Dynamite7 would get to this part of the video, but his favorite card, I believe, Ragnaros the Fire Lord, has now been turned into a good guy, and it's a Paladin exclusive card. And it's an 8 mana 8/8, just like Ragnaros. At the end of your turn, restore 8 health to a damaged friendly character. So they have to be damaged, but of course, why would you heal health to one that isn't damaged? So that's actually a really good thing, because if it's just restore 8 health randomly, it could do that to any one of them. But this one is to only damage characters, so if it's face, that's the only thing that's damaged, then you're guaranteed to get 8 health to the face. And I'm assuming this is random. It doesn't say random in the card checks, but I'm assuming it's random, because choosing which one would be quite an advantage and make this card quite good. And it can attack. Now, do you want it to attack? I'm not sure, because you want it to stay alive so it can restore 8 health, but it can attack if that's the flexibility you need it to do. And being that flexible, unlike Ragnaros the Fire Lord, is a good thing in my opinion, because now you can hit. Now with Ragnaros the Fire Lord, its strength is its ability, excuse me. But not being able to attack is kind of a bummer, but it also can't be attacked into without whatever's attacking into it taking 8 damage, which is quite good. But it's a big hard removal target. Is this a hard removal target? I'm not sure. Do I want to get the 8/8 off the board? Of course I do, but is the effect that bad? But because it can attack, I think it's a very good card, and I think this card is going to see a lot of play. I may be wrong, I may be right. We will have to see as the new meta forms. So moving on to card number 40, Shadow Word Horror. So it's a new card in the Shadow Word series. It's a 4-mana Shadow Word, so it's the highest of the Shadow Word mana costs, and it's destroy all minions with 2 or less attacks. I think that's kind of weak, to be honest, because if you're playing it on turn 4, how many 2 or less attack minions does your opponent have? And you cannot play this card late game, because there are very few late game minions with 2 or less attack that you would want to use this card on. So I think this card is very weak. I think we're gonna have to see some major update to at some point in the future to Hearthstone, or at least have the meta change to where this card can actually be playable. I think that this card is probably the worst card that has been announced this entire Whispers of the Old God. So, Falcofard, of course, does not think that the Mage Forbidden one is very good. I don't either. I think Eater of Secrets is very bad for a card. But this may actually be worse, ladies and gentlemen. This may be worse than both of those cards. Because for 4 mana, I'm expecting at least 2 minions to die. And it's not really that threatening. 2 or less attack minions, to be honest with you. So we have to see, we're going to have to see a lot of change in Hearthstone for this card to be playable, in my opinion. Moving on to card number 41, it's Zariel, Poisoned Mind. So of course, we're back again with another legendary. But this is kind of like, it's introducing a new concept, and it's a 4-mana 3/2, of course, Battlecry and Death Rattle. Add a random Toxin card to your hand. So I have the 5 Toxin cards on the screen, and they're kind of like spare parts. Actually, they are spare parts, except they're called Toxins. And it's a new set of spare parts, because a lot of our spare parts, I think all of them actually, are leaving with the GVG. So that means this is kind of like the new Toshli, in my opinion. And I believe, if I have this right, I'm actually not sure what class this is. You guys can probably tell because you can check out the color or whatever, the design. But I am colorblind, so you gotta give me a moment here. It is a Rogue Legendary, so unfortunately it's not available to everyone like Toshli and his spare parts were, but this is kind of like the Toshli of Toxins, but it's the only Toxin-related card, or yeah, technically to be announced. So let's look at the Toxins. There are 5 Toxins that have been currently announced. Blood Thistle Toxin, which is return a friendly minion to your hand. It costs 2 less, so it's Shadow Step for 1 mana. And King's Blood Toxin, which is draw a card, which is actually, I don't think there is just a straight out card you can put in your deck which draws a card. Of course, there's the excess mana card from Druid with Wild Growth, but I don't think there's actually many cards that just draw a card for 1 mana. Fade Leaf Toxin is give a friendly minion stealth until your next turn. We have one of those spare parts. Friar Bloom Toxin is deal 2 damage, so it's just like the it's just like the priest spell. Briar Thorn Toxin is give a minion +3 attack, which is just like the is that the Paladin? I believe it's a Paladin card. Give a minion +3 attack for 1 mana. So we're seeing a bunch of combinations of cards here that are similar to spare parts, and I think that this card is quite strong because you're going to get 2 Toxin cards probably out of each one, and of the 5, there's not many that bad ones. I think that of the 5, the worst ones are the Shadow Step, Blood Thistle one, and the Fade Leaf one, because of course Fade Leaf Toxin, giving a minion stealth isn't really that important. It's only worth half a point, and Blood Thistle Toxin is already a card that's cheaper. Now, is Shadow Step leaving the game? Because if it is, does that change what my evaluation of that card is? No, it really doesn't, but I don't know if Shadow Step is a card that's leaving. It is not. It is a common card, I believe. Yeah, it is. No, it's classic cards, excuse me. So I think that Shadow Step is, of course, a much better card because it costs 0. So Blood Thistle Toxin is a bad Shadow Step. So that means that Blood Thistle Toxin is, of course, the worst. I think it's useful as a rogue to get all of these because they're combo activators, of course. But I think if you get a Blood Thistle Toxin, you're going to be disappointed because Shadow Step is a much better card, of course, because it's free. And it is a common card, so... Anyways, let's move on to card number 42, and it is Tentacles for Arms. So it's a warrior weapon, 5 mana, 2/2, which is very weak, but the card text reads, Death Rattle, return this to your hand. Now remember, you cannot silence weapons, I don't believe. So I'm not sure. So this card you could just technically have for infinity in your hand. So you could probably play out the what do you call? You could probably play out the fatigue game with this card, even though it does have 2 charges, which means you have to hit with turn 1, and then the next turn you have to take the fatigue damage for the next turn, but then the turn after that you wouldn't have to take fatigue damage if you attacked again with Tentacle for Arms. So I think this card could be used in a fatigue, which is what Control Warrior tends to go out to. But I don't think this weapon's going to see much play because it's not very strong. To be honest, a 2/2 weapon is not very good for 5 mana. And by not very good, I mean not good at all. Arcanite Reaper, however, is a 5 mana 5/2, but it doesn't have any card text to it. Do I think this card is better than Arcanite Reaper? No, I don't. I don't think this card's going to see very much play. I don't think it's great. I think it is okay at very best, below average at normal. But I'm not impressed with Tentacle for Arms, even though it is a cool card text card. And the last card is a Shaman card, Master of Evolution. So it's a 4 mana 4/5 battle cry. Transform a friendly minion into a random one that costs 1 more. I assume you can choose the minion, which is good. I would rather choose the minion than not choose the minion because it makes this card a lot better. Unlike Tinga Master Overspark, which you cannot choose the minion, and it could do any minion on the battlefield. And I never win the RNG battle with that one. If I can choose for this card, and even though it is a friendly minion anyways, it transforms one that costs 1 more. I think that this card is average to above average depending on the deck you play it in, because in Shaman you have a lot of cards that are pretty high value. A hard card costs for lower value than it is. So if you transform it into 1 more, my question is, if you get 10 mana minion, does that turn it into 11 mana minion? Because there are no 11 mana minions. And the same thing if you put out like Sea Giant, does it turn it into a 11 mana minion, which doesn't exist? Does it just get rid of Sea Giant? Is it just gone? Or if you put out, for example, a card that costs higher than that, so if you put out Frost Giant or something like that, does it just get rid of the minion? Because that would suck. I think this card's okay. So anyways, we've reached the end. That's all 43 cards. And I want to go back to the very beginning here to Spawn of N'Zoth, because that is the cutest card art ever. So cute. So cute. So anyways, that was another 17 cards for you guys. Hopefully we'll see more, and we'll be back next week for even more cards. And again, recapping this week, again, not super impressed by anything but Ragnaros the Light Lord. I'm very excited to see him in play. Unfortunately, I don't play Paladin. That's not quite Paladin. If I get Paladin, nope, I said it again. If I get Ragnaros the Light Lord, I may start playing Paladin, but not super impressed by any of the cards this week other than that. I hope you guys join us next week. I hope you've enjoyed watching. Falconfart hopefully will be back next week, and maybe we'll all be here next week to discuss the next set of new cards. We've still got just under 100 to go. We've got 90 some odd, I believe, is the exact number. Let's go back to the forward so I can see. We still have, yes, it's 91 cards to be revealed. So I hope that you guys come back next week and the weeks after that to come and see more Hearthstone cards. And I hope you like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you all next time.